Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today is more of a philosophical conversation that we're going to have about something which can be problematic in a man's life, but it often features in depictions of successful men, maybe glamorous men, but there is a dark underside to it as well, and it is of course the world of gambling. And I am going to talk about my own gambling journey. I am going to talk about how I am able to enjoy gambling very responsibly. But the whole reason why I'm having this conversation is because I received an email from one of my patrons. In fact, I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to run any risk of an identification of the individual who was discussed in this email. So I'll just tell you what the email said. And my anonymous patron said to me, a good friend of mine from my Royal Navy days recently confessed to me he has a serious gambling problem. This was a huge shock to me. I didn't see it coming at all. He has come clean to his wife, who was under the impression that whilst the family was struggling financially, it was just the struggles that normal people have in the modern era. They have now separated and they will be selling their house. I'd appreciate your views on gambling and the risks involved. And firstly, I want to say what a tragic story, to hear that anything taken to an extreme could be so damaging to a relationship that a family now find their lives ruined, heading off in different directions. But this is the effect that problematic gambling does have on people. It's an increasing, if not widely acknowledged situation for people in the modern world. To give you an idea, the UK, population of about 70 million people. It has been said through research that 1.3 million people are engaged in some form of problematic gambling activity within their lives. And I think I saw statistics somewhere. The UK gambling industry now makes £15 billion per year. And that's rising year on year as online gambling becomes more and more prevalent amongst people. So, gambling is something you can do enjoyably. But let's talk about the risks of gambling and perhaps how we can gamble more responsibly to make it an enjoyable part of our lives. It can be an enjoyable yet occasional activity that people can get involved with. Gambling offers a world of a little bit of excitement, certainly a bit of entertainment, maybe even a little bit of perceived glamour. But the reality is that gambling is a dangerous activity like many others. And if you take your eye off the ball with it, it can trip you up. And as we have heard, it can ruin people's lives. Now, like many people, for me, my sort of early days of gambling, when I became aware of it as a young person, was through that iconic character who strides so large through lives of men like myself who were born in the 70s. I was sort of influenced by this character, and it's James Bond. This most suave, debonair, successful, iconic movie star or movie character, fictional character, secret agent, lover of women, winner of fights. But one thing he always is a exceptionally talented gambler. And I think every single actor who has played the Bond role at some point or another have found themselves wearing that iconic tuxedo and they're in a casino somewhere and it's going to be a high stakes game. The very first time that we are introduced to Sean Connery when he plays James Bond on the big screen, when he utters those words, Bond, James Bond, it was in a casino wearing a tuxedo on a gambling table. I think it was Baccarat he was playing at the time. And every one of those Bond characters Bond actors rather, have been there. You know, if you think of the Daniel Craig, his first movie, Casino Royale, tells you all you need to know. High stakes gambling game, lots of money changing hands. They've all been there. Pierce Brosnan, Roger Moore. I recall in Octopussy, he even gambled over a game of backgammon in which a Fabergé egg was the prize for the winner. So Bond has sort of added, you know, he's made us associate gambling with glamour, sexiness, and of course, never losing either, because Bond always seems to win. And truthfully, that is not the reality of gambling. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my own gambling journey, because I'm a gambler, right? I've been there. Gambling has been a part of my life from a very early age. Like many people, perhaps from a very blue-collar working class background, I recall as a child, my father was a bit of a gambler, all right? He'll probably watch this video and he'll take issue with what I've just said. But I remember growing up, my father, like many guys of his generation, of his era, they did the football pools. So they would participate in the sort of group gambling game, the pools. Now kind of fallen into abeyance because other forms of gambling are more popular. Many, many men gambled in that way. They gambled on football scores. Additionally to that, my father enjoyed flutters on the horses. He would go to the betting shop on a Saturday, he'd place his bets, and, you know, he would watch the racing at home or in the betting shop, and it was very much part of the working class man's life. My dad never gambled on anything other than horses and football. I know some guys would bet on greyhound racing, the dog track, but we enjoyed it because my dad used to take me to our local horse racing track, Chap in Wales, and we would go down. It wasn't that far, it was an hour's drive. We'd go down there, and, you know, sometimes we would go as a family, my mother, my father and I, and we would go into the race track. You know, you'd pay, I don't know, £10 to get in, and it would be a whole day's entertainment. There would be a spectacle of horse racing. We would go and look at the horses being paraded. We would, you know, place our bets. We would watch the horse racing. You could go in the bar, have a drink. It was more than just the financial hope that you were going to win money. It was something much more than that. And do you know what? I remember on my father's 90th birthday, I took him to Bath races, local city near us, and we had a day in the hospitality suite watching the horse racing. So all throughout our lives, horse racing has been something which we've enjoyed. I've enjoyed it with my wife. You know, my wife's an equestrian, she rides horses. We've got a couple of horses, you often see them in the fields. I walk past them on the way here right now. And, you know, we like horses. So we would go to horse racing tracks and we would enjoy the animals. Yes, that's a part of it. We would enjoy the hospitality, go into the restaurants, the boxes. My wife's company occasionally used to sponsor horse racing at tracks, and we would have a box. We would enjoy a lovely meal, some refreshments of a liquid kind, a little bit of gambling. You know, we've enjoyed racing at elite tracks like Cheltenham, the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. We've been there horse racing. And these were great events and enjoyable memories which will linger with me forever. But actually, for me, the gambling was a sort of add-on to it. It wasn't the main part of it. It was just something that we enjoyed. Now, casinos is another subject entirely. I cannot even remember the first time that I went into a casino. It was probably when I lived in Wales in my younger years, when I was a young man. I probably would have joined a casino in the capital city of Cardiff, because this is, you know, bit of a sign of my previous life, but when you used to go to pubs and things like that, when the pubs closed, they kicked you out at, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night in those days. If you were a member of a casino, you could go into a casino and they'd have, you know, all night drinking. So you could go into the casino and continue your night's revelry rather than stopping when the pubs closed. So it was a way of extending your night to a degree. But again, the gambling played a part in it. And like many people, you know, I did find myself gambling. I've enjoyed playing games like blackjack and roulette and things like that, and craps in in casinos. But I've always tempered my involvement with gambling. I mean, I've really played the whole games as well. I've been to Las Vegas. I stayed in the MGM Grand, actually, and we went to all of the big casinos. A friend of mine on a sort of driving tour of that part of the States. We had a weekend in Vegas. I went looking in my old photographs, and in fact the only image I can find of my trip to Vegas, this was before digital cameras by the way, was a picture of me in my hotel suite in the MGM Grand. But we enjoyed it. We had a great old time, and I stayed in, I remember when I was passing through Australia. I was on a bit of a tour around Australia. I was visiting there on my own, and I spent pretty much a week in Melbourne. And every night of the week that I was in Melbourne, I found myself in the huge Crown Casino complex in Melbourne, because it was a great way to spend an evening. There was entertainment to be had in these places, fairly cheap booze, fairly cheap food as well. And that's always been the case. You know, every time I end up in a new city, somehow or another, I often find myself in a casino. And I've always kind of enjoyed them, because I have got a very firm grip on gambling in my life. I can honestly say that I have taken more out of gambling than gambling has taken out of me. And I have some observations for you to let you know how I've been able to do it. But before we come to my how to gamble responsibly tips, let's just think for a moment on the fire that we're playing with when we gamble, the risks that you're running. Firstly, financial ruin is a very real possibility if you like gambling. You know, often when you play when you play some of these games, be it horse racing, even in casinos, you can lose money so quickly. The games are designed to have very fast turnover. Your money will fly away from you without you even realizing it's going away so quickly. And, and then you start chasing losses, you start losing, your grip of reality, debts start mounting, you start borrowing money to try and recoup what you've lost. Honestly, financial ruin lies if you think that gambling is something that you can control. You have the emotional and psychological losses, which are never far away. Our sort of initial conversation where my patron has said to us, his close personal friend, has lost his family as a consequence of gambling. That is really possible when you have a gambling addiction. It leads to stress, anxiety, depression. The highs of winning a little bit of money are often followed by the crushing lows of the losses, which inevitably follow. Believe me, the gambling industry does not make £15 billion a year in the UK, a small country, 15 billion, by giving money to people who win. It takes away money from people who lose. Those who think they're winning are winning, but for a mere short period of time. Honestly, anything you win will soon disappear in the losses. We hear about relationship breakdowns. These are a real thing with problematic gambling. Whoever you're married to or whoever your partner is, they will not understand why you're taking, your available funds and you're throwing it into something which seems so fleeting in nature. You're chasing the sort of adrenaline rush of gambling, the serotonin, the dopamine hits that you get, these mental chemical cocktails which work to get you to enjoy gambling. They won't understand that. All they know is that you have blown all the family money. You're not going on holiday this year. We're going to struggle to pay the bills. We're going to struggle to put food on the table because you have been gambling on the horses. And they're going to go because a better life lies for them elsewhere, not with the problematic gambler. And it is a road to loss. And social isolation will follow as well. Because problematic gamblers, they tend to withdraw from society. Embarrassment, yes, to a degree. They've lost everything. Also because they don't have the financial capability to enjoy socializing with friends anymore. All available funds that they have are being spent on online poker, casinos, horse racing. There's so many ways you can hump money into gambling and it'll disappear faster than you can ever get your hands on it. The only people who make a small fortune from gambling are those who started with a large fortune. Believe me, there's no way to win. So walk away from it. However, employing some techniques, I've got 3 strategies that I'm going to share with you, which will let you know how I have embraced gambling in my lifestyle, and still do. I still enjoy, only today I was looking at the horse racing venues, which have got meets coming up in the next few weeks, because I fancy going to the horse track for a bit of fun. And I might well do so. But I can do it in the knowledge that it is not going to damage me because I follow these strategies. The first strategy that I have for you is the most crucial, and is set strict limits on the amount of money that you intend to lose. And remember what I just said, the amount of money you intend to lose. You go into gambling in the knowledge that whatever money you are taking with you is a loss. It's a write-off, all right? You're not going to win anything, you're going to lose it. That is the practical reality of gambling. If I go to the track, I will say I've got 50 quid that I am going to spend today, £10 on each race. Tends to be about 5 or 6 races in a standard horse racing meeting here in the UK. Occasionally there might be 7, but it's 5 or 6 ordinarily, spread throughout the afternoon. £10 per race, that's all I'm going to spend. For me, 50, 60, 70 quid, that's not too bad for a day out. If I'm going to the casino, which I haven't been to for a long time actually, I would set a limit at, 50 quid. That would be it. I'm not going to spend a penny more, but I've gone into it in the knowledge that I am going to lose that money. It's my expense. I go into it, knowing that that money is a total write-off and a loss. I never think I'm going into it to win, that I'm going to walk away with a pile of money. I go into it in the sure knowledge that I'm going to have a loss. So I set a strict limit on the money I spend. I also set a strict limit on the time that I spend, because if you go into these casinos, and it's well known, you go into casinos, they will not have clocks, they do not have windows, you can't tell when it's getting dark, when it's getting light. The passage of time is meaningless in a casino. They do that deliberately because you lose track. When you get into something, your focus is fully on what you're doing. Maybe it's a gaming table, playing cards or whatever, and your money's going to disappear without you having a thought that it's happening, because time is meaningless to you. So I will say I'll go in for an hour, 2 hours, that's it. Treat it like that. Strict limits, know what you're going to lose, spend, know how much time you're going to do. My second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to treat gambling as I have always done. Treat it as entertainment and not as a potential income source. Now, for me, when I go to the horse racing track, I don't imagine I'm going there to win money. I'm going there to enjoy the spectacle. Exactly the same when I go to a casino. Every night when I went to the Crown Casino Complex in Melbourne, Australia, I did so because I was travelling singly. I was on my own. I'd been visiting somebody in Sydney and I wanted to, spend a week having a look around myself. So I flew over to Melbourne. I was on my own. I was a bit younger then. I was about 35. I didn't want to sort of go to all the trouble of going to bars and have all those women bothering me. So I went to the casino every night. And I really enjoyed it, because when you get in there, there's lots going on to see. Often casinos have entertainment to keep you engaged. Food is available. Drinks available. If you're actually on the gaming tables, your food and drink will be provided complimentary by the casino to keep you playing. So it's a really good night out. And I always treated it like entertainment. Exactly the same in Vegas. I went to Vegas for a long weekend. I think I ended up walking away at the end of it with a total loss of $5 US, which I'd lost in some game or another. But actually, whilst I played a few games, I lost a few games, I won a few games, I didn't lose a great deal of money because I was there for the fun of it. I treated it very much as I would have treated maybe going to a cinema or going to a concert or something like that, or a sports event. You pay 30 quid to get into a sports event, to watch a game of football, whatever. And I used to think the same of casinos, yeah. And my money that I took in with me, which I set myself a target, I'll spend $10 tonight, $20, $50. That was it. That was my cost, for the entertainment, and I gotta be honest, some of my most enjoyable times in casinos was watching other people play the games. Because when you get, you watch particularly card games, you can see so much money vanishing off the table. Or Baccarat is a good one. It's a favourite of James Bond. Money flies off the table so quickly. It's a fast game, fast moving. You've got to be really sharp. And if you stand and watch them for a while, it's fascinating to watch these gamblers, and it's frightening to see the money disappearing. And if you want a lesson that'll teach you not to sit down and put your money on the table, you watch other people play. You'll soon learn it's a mug's game. But as an observer, it's a thoroughly enjoyable night out. So cultivate the mindset that going to a casino or going to the horse racing track is entertainment, not an income source. You're not going to win nothing. You might spend a little bit of money for the evening that you're out. Treat it like that, and it's a healthy approach to going to physical gambling. My advice when it comes to online gambling, have nothing to do with it, because you're not going to win, and you're not even going to have the entertainment of watching things and seeing things in the flesh. Online gambling, total fool's avenue. Do not walk down it. And finally, the last piece of advice I would give you is take breaks from your gambling. Think of gambling in the same way as you think of other risky and slightly dangerous activities that you can get involved in. Drinking alcohol, eating junk food, right? These are all things that we do occasionally, but we know we can't do it a lot because it will kill you, right? And all of these things, they're a poison that our bodies can only take in very small amounts if you're sensible. If you're going to get the most out of something, have a glass of whiskey now and again. Enjoy the flavour, enjoy the ambience of being out with friends in a nice venue and having a drink. But don't drink every day. If it gets a grip of you, it will ruin your life. Gambling is the same. Think of gambling in the same way as other risky activities and take a break. Right, as I'm filming this, it's January. I haven't taken a drink since New Year's Day or New Year's Eve because every year I participate in Dry January. Because, not that I'm a big drinker anymore, but I don't drink at all, actually, during the month of January, to prove to myself that I can control my drinking. Same with gambling. If you feel that you're enjoying it a bit too much, take a month off. Take a prolonged period away from it to make sure you're in control of your enjoyment of gambling, because it is a dangerous activity, and if you lose control of it, it will soon get control of you. So finally, I would say, if anything I've said today has struck a nerve with you and you're sitting there watching this thinking, actually the way this guy is talking, maybe I've got a bit of a problem here. The only thing I can say to you is we live in a time where there are organisations which are there to help you. Reach out for support and help, and I'm sure that they can put you on the right track. I mean, I hope something I've said might have triggered you, maybe to thinking, I don't have those strategies in my relationship with gambling. Maybe I should think about this a bit more. Do so. Honestly, it could be something that could change your journey. I've had many happy times with gambling, but then, like I said, I've taken more out of gambling than gambling has taken out of me, but I'm an exception. For some reason, in my mind, I've always had a good grip of it, and I've really enjoyed it. And I have never won a large amount of money, but crucially, I have never lost a large amount of money either. And that's the key. And if you employ maybe the strategies which I've talked about today, and also have in your mind the risks which potentially lie at stake for gamblers, it can be a healthy place for you too. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, like it, subscribe for more. Ask me a question. Probe me for my observations on a conundrum that you or somebody you know may be facing. Drop it in. Email address is on the screen now. I'm the only person who reads those emails. There's no judgment from me, only assistance and support if I can provide it. So don't be afraid, drop me that email. You can support this channel by buying me a coffee, which is a one-off thing, it's like a tip, or For a tiny monthly fee of only £3, right, you can join my Patreon community by following the link in the show notes below. And in my Patreon community, you will benefit from the additional videos I make each week exclusively for my patrons, and you get a personal dialogue with me should you wish to have that. Show notes below. Follow the link. I'd love to hear from you. So folks, gamble, but responsibly. Enjoy it. Don't let it control you. You control it. I'll see you again very soon.